Hello everyone, my name is Corazar, and welcome back to the Vintage Story Guide. We are back in the world on this windy, blustery day. I spent the night cowering in fear of the raccoons, aka drifters, and this morning I went over that way in the field to make them disappear, and I also went and grabbed a bunch of the crops we left back there yesterday. Oop, and that was weird. My view just dropped. So we have a pretty good collection of seeds starting out here. This is actually really great. We also have a good collection of food for the interim while we're waiting for our seeds to grow. I also went ahead and I broke the seed vessel that was sitting right here in our ruin, and we got 6 rice seeds. Now, the rice seeds we probably won't plant here much, if at all, because they're only cold resistant to 8 degrees Celsius, and it's going to be, well, and we could plant this once or twice per year and get a decent crop out of it. However, it is also a K crop. And that is something that we're going to talk about today because I think I've decided that we're going to settle here. What? Corazar, we're settling here already? Well, yeah, why not? I like the area. I actually wanted a nice flat place to build here with some decent backdrop, and this is pretty perfect. Now granted, there are some wolves over in those woods there, but in the temperate areas, you're not really going to be able to get away from wolves, because there are wolves over there. Saw one yesterday. And I think there's one over that side of the trader over there. So there's going to be a fact of life for us. But I was doing some thinking and some calculating and some planning, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to come over here, past the squealing pigs. Up ahead here, there is a small pond. And I'm thinking we should settle right at the edge of this pond. And the reason is that, at the moment, we don't have the ability to move water around. We can't build buckets yet. So we need to settle somewhere. Hey, look, fish. So we need to settle somewhere where we can build our farmland using the water here. And this is a perfect starter farm size. But this seems to be a great place to start farming and setting down roots, and that's where we're going to start today. It also happens to be right next to this ruin here, and I think we should go ahead and break into this and check it out while we're here. How are we breaking into that ruin, Corazar, you ask? While we can't actually break stone with our fists, when you have cobblestone or stone brick, if you hit it long enough, you can actually break the stones and get the blocks. And there we go. Ooh, we have some spooky sandstone cobble skull. Oh boy. Let's dig this way. Here we go. Got some dirt. This is not a fast process, by the way, but it is a very easy early game source of both building materials and fun loot that you can find in the ruins. Let's go ahead and dig down in here, see if we can get in here and see what there is to be seen down here. We've already explored the ruins near us and the ones we live in, but not particularly deep. We just sort of broke their treasure vessels and didn't really go any farther. But sometimes, and here we go, ooh. Here we go. We have a forage vessel and something else, a food vessel. Don't mind if I do. So these vessels, I've already broken 2 of them. We are a tinker, so the only thing we can do with them is break them to get their stuff. If we were a malefactor, we would have a 12% chance of getting the vessels, which they don't really do anything aside from you can move them and break them later, or you can sell them to commodities traders for a decent amount of money. But we are not a malefactor, so we're just going to go ahead and break these. And we have, what are these? Oh, we got some clay, and we got some healing poultices. This is great, because I have not seen any of the materials we need to make more of those. And we got some more rye grain. Now you'll also see here we have some bony soil. Bony soil is a decorative soil block. You can't really grow anything in it, but it does look interesting. It has a second purpose, however, and we will get to that maybe in this episode, but maybe not until the next one, where you can actually sift through it for additional treasure. I'm going to go ahead and dig out some more of this, and we're going to see if there's anything else down here, or if this is it. Sometimes ruins do have additional basement levels. They're kind of rare in single ruins, although the brick-based ruins seem to be more interestingly laid out than others. Well, I think that's it for this ruin. If there is a basement level, it is beyond our ability to reach because this is solid stone, and unlike the stone above, we cannot break this with our fists. We have to have a pickaxe to break it. And so, today's plan is we're going to build a little house right on the edge of that water, and we're going to start some crop fields in, or rather, adjacent to the water. That's the plan. Let's get to it. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to start with the crop fields here, because I want to get our crops the most time possible for growing, because when winter comes, we need to be ready. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this basket here, and we're going to drop some of the resources we just got into it. Oh, we have a full stack of sticks, too. Excellent. Now, the first thing you have to know about crops is that animals, especially rabbits, will eat them. They are very tasty, and they will absolutely munch on your crops whenever they have a chance to. There are some that they won't eat, namely onions and pumpkins, and I think the rice, but I don't want to bank on that. So we're going to prepare the area by clearing some of these bushes out just to get better visibility, and then we're going to go and start by making a fence around the whole area. Okay, now for a fence, I could use dirt, but dirt is ugly, and I don't want to sit in a dirt hovel all my life. So we're going to start with some wood. However, where you find trees, you usually also find wolves. So I'm going to go ahead and start by taking down a couple trees. I'm going to begin by trimming back their leaves. As I mentioned before, you'll get seeds only from breaking leaves. You can occasionally get maybe a seed from a tree by harvesting the whole tree with the axe. However, your chances of getting a seed from a tree are exponentially lower than breaking the leaves by hand. Now, when you have leaves that are out of your reach, what you can do is, if you make a few ladders with some sticks by putting them in an H pattern here in your crafting grid, you get 3 ladders per craft, which is 7 sticks, and you can just sort of drop these here and clamber your way up into the tree. And here you can commence with all of the destruction. Okay, there's our tree, pretty well bare. It does look like we got 2 maple seeds, which is perfect, which means we can then propagate this tree somewhere a little closer to home and away from the areas over here where we've seen wolves. So we're going to go ahead and chop this tree down. And the ladders need to be attached to a surface, so they'll actually come down with the tree when it comes down. And there we go. We now have, almost a full stack of maple logs. I'm going to go ahead and take down probably this tree and maybe a couple others. I'm going to stick with the maples for now because I want to keep all the same color going in our fences. And later we'll look at the different wood types, because they do have different colors, but also sometimes different uses. Alright everyone, we are back at base as night draws on, and I now have over 2 stacks of maple logs, which should be enough to get us started for what we want to do with them. But I wanted to point out that in the earliest parts of the game, it's kind of important to make sure you keep up some momentum. So on nights that you're not hunting the map for new supplies, you want to try to be productive if you can. You can sleep if you have nothing else to do, but I recommend in the earliest parts of the game to spend most of your nights clay forming, because there are a lot of things we're going to need moving forward. 1, we're going to want more bowls. We can use these for food, but also they are used in some crafting recipes, as well as for small lights. We may want more cooking pots, because I tend to lose them or I take them with me and leave them places. So I like to have a few spares on hand. Crocks are handy for storing food for long term, especially if you can seal them with either animal fat or beeswax. We're going to need at least 1 crucible coming up soon, because these are used for smelting ores into usable metals. To go along with the crucible, we will need ingot molds as well as tool molds. We can make axes, falx blades, which are swords, hammers, hoes, pickaxes, lamelae, which is for armor, prospecting picks, shovels, and I have a mod on to enable us to make raw nails and strips with a mold rather than on the anvil. Now the anvil is also made with a mold, but the anvil requires a lot of materials, so we're going to focus on some of the easiest stuff, specifically the tools first. That way we can get enough copper to actually make our first anvil. We'll also want some clay storage vessels. These are great for storing food, aside from meat, for very long periods of time. They have a bonus to their spoil timers. So for tonight, I'm going to stick with some of the basics. I'm going to make probably a couple storage vessels if we can, a couple of these tool molds, specifically the pickaxe and the hammer, and then probably some of the bowls, pots, ingot molds, and crucibles. Alright everyone, we are back in the morning, and I have 4 items here burning up. I've got a pickaxe mold, I have 4 bowls, 4 cooking pots, and I have 1 storage vessel. Now you'll see the pile of wood on this is a bit higher than the others. The storage vessels require 8 pieces of wood. You'll put 4 around the sides of it at the top, and then 4 directly on top of it. So I wanted to let you all know that if you're having trouble lighting your pit kilns with a storage vessel in them, that's what you have to do. And I have been trimming back these bushes here, partly to get some more sticks, but also because wolves like to wander, and they often tend to wander toward the player, in my experience, and they will end up sort of in these bushes, hiding, and they have ground-penetrating radar, apparently, and so they will sense you and lurk in these bushes, and the moment you stick your little head out, your tasty, tasty little head, they will come and jump on you. So I'm just trimming these back so that while we are working here in the area, they won't get us, but also because each of those pit kilns took 8 sticks. So we are burning through sticks like crazy already. And literally. Okay, so let's get to work on the farms. The first thing we're going to want to do is we want to make sure we have enough soil. Now, in this area here, you'll see, if we dig up one of these medium fertility soils, we have low fertility underneath. We want to make sure that we use medium, not sure I put that back, because the fertility when tilled is 50%. If we were to dig up, say, this one right here, and look at it, the fertility on it is only 25%. This affects your plant growth rates very dramatically. So you're going to make sure you're using the best soil available. There are better soils than medium, however one is found only rarely, and the other you must make yourself once you have access to a barrel. I'm going to go ahead and finish out this stack of dirt here, and then we'll head over to where the farm is going to be. Alright, we've arrived at the target area. There's a salmon hanging out in these ponds here. I'm not sure this is how salmon actually live. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm going to go ahead and harvest these guys because they are a great, easy-to-access source of protein early in the game. Now, each salmon, I think, really only ever gives you 1 piece of fish, but they can be used in, I think, stew. We'll find out. Also, if you're eating them raw, they're actually better raw than cooked, just so you know. You can also break corpses now for bones. You used to get the bones when harvesting. It now happens only when you actually break the corpse on the ground. Okay, so we have our little potential farm here. I'm going to first go ahead and chunk out where our farmland areas are going to be. And I want to start with this corner here, because this is a kind of small area here. I don't think it's worth worrying about. Now, unlike the other block game, the distance from the water to your farmland is actually very important. You want your farmland to be bordering your water, otherwise they'll have less moisture and your crops won't grow as fast. Now I'm going to create a little grid pattern here using a 3x3 pattern of 1 water in the middle surrounded by 8 dirt, and we will see what we get out of this pattern once we're done. That's actually pretty darn good. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, essentially 10 crop plots. That is an excellent start to our little farm area here. I'm going to go ahead and tear up some of this grass. We're going to need grass later, so may as well get it while we're here. And then I'm going to knock down the rest of the grass, and we're going to fence this in. Okay, some of the grass is trimmed. You will see that as soon as you put down dirt, it will start to turn green if it is in sunlight. We're going to go ahead and, rather than putting the fence up just yet, I actually want to make a couple hoes. These are going to let us till this dirt into farmland, and then we will use that to determine the final size of our garden here. Now, once you have your hoe in hand, you can just right-click on the dirt, and it will till it into farmland. If there's grass on it, it will keep the grass, but the green top of the block will go away. And if you want to try to till farmland that has grass on it and it's hard to reach, you can always till the side of it too. Now it is important to note that if you're playing in the vanilla game, once you have tilled soil into farmland, you can no longer pick it up. However, I am playing with, and I highly recommend, a mod called Farmland Drop Soil. It is designed originally for versions 1.14 and 1.15, however, it does still work in this version of the game. I can confirm it right here. We're going to go ahead and dig up this farmland, and we got a dirt block back out of it. So, there you go. Now, what this does is, basically, as your crops grow, they will deplete the nutrients from the soil here. At the top of the screen, it says nutrient levels, 50% N, P, and K, and then growth speeds. As you grow crops, the plants will deplete these nutrients, and they will replenish over time as long as that crop or that nutrient isn't being actively absorbed by any crops. With this mod in place, you want to make sure that your soil replenishes itself fully before you try to pick it up, otherwise you might not get the block back. Okay, so there is the size of our little farm plot. Let's get to fencing this in. We're going to go ahead and grab some more sticks because we might need a lot of these things. And I don't recall the recipe, so I'm going to go ahead and open my inventory, and I'm going to press H on top of one of these maple logs because I know these can be turned into fences. And here we go, a rough-hewn fence. So this is made by putting your maple logs like this, with some sticks like this, and an axe right here. And we get 8 from each crafting of it. Let's go ahead and make a full stack because this is a pretty big area here and we might actually need more. Alright, we're going to go ahead and just plop these down. These will overwrite the grass as you place them down. And despite the funny shape here, I'm going to square this off. In the future we might either put another farm plot here, or we could put something else here. Maybe a tree for decoration or something else. I don't know. I kind of like this shape. Now the next part is ensuring that you don't have any tall grass in your farm area. So we're going to go ahead and break this grass here. I said break this grass here. I'm going to harvest these down to the trimmed version just to get those resources, and then we'll harvest or break this grass here. Same over here. I'm just going to get rid of these because these will regrow eventually. And we'll need to keep an eye on these two, or if we're feeling clever, and if we didn't fence ourselves in, whoops, let's go ahead and we'll break one here, and we'll break one about here. We can prevent grass from growing by just dropping some stones on them, like that. That way it'll turn green, but we won't get the grass growing. Oh, do you mind? Okay, and I am actually going to make some more fences because I have found that rabbits, when sufficiently frightened, can jump at least 2 blocks tall. Now a fence is just over 1 block tall, so I think that if we were to raise the fences to 2 blocks tall, it should keep rabbits out when they're being chased by either us, or a fox, or a wolf, and that should keep them out of our farms. So, we used, 44? We need 24 more. Let's go ahead and just make these guys here. And we're also going to go ahead and make some fence gates. There we are. And gates are made in this pattern here. Let's go ahead and try that out. How many do we get from this? We get 2. Perfect. Let's go ahead and we will drop our gates in. I think they're directional. I'm pretty sure. Yes. Put you facing this way. Oh, nope. They always face the same direction. Okay, that's fine. And then we will complete this by just putting some fences on top of the ones here, or outside of them apparently, and walling this place off for better security. Like I said, watch out for the rams. Okay, with this all done, we are ready to start planting. Now you'll see that grass does grow here, however rabbits will not spawn even in tall grass on farmland, specifically because it is farmland. So you don't need to worry about that, but it will get in the way when you're trying to rotate your crops. Okay, here we are with our seeds. Let's go ahead and just clean these out. Now, when you look at your seed packets inside your inventory, it will tell you what kind of nutrient they require, how much of it they will pull from the soil, and their approximate growth time, as well as their cold and heat resistance. Now, most of the crops we have here should be cold resistant through early winter, like maybe October, and I know that's not technically winter, but it does get cold. And these should all last the summer here. The summers here won't get very warm. Now you'll see that we have 3 crops that use nitrogen, or N. We have the spelt, the rye, and the turnip. We have 1 crop, the onions, that uses phosphorus, or P, and we have 1 crop that uses K, or potassium. What you're going to want to do is that because each of these drains 1 nutrient from the soil, you're going to need to rotate them. And that means you need to pay attention to where you're planting them. You don't want to just plant them willy-nilly. If you plant like P, N, K, P, N, K, whenever you come back to replant and rotate, you have to look at each block individually to make sure, oh, is this the P or the N? And it can get really tedious. So make sure you plant all the crops that use the same nutrient in the same general area. In this case, we have 16 onions, so I'm going to go ahead and just plant them right here. 8 and 16. Perfect. And then I'm going to come in and plant our flax, or K, right in this middle row here, well, this middle of 2 rows here, because we have 1 shy of a complete plot here. There we go. And then the rye, the spelt, and the turnips I'm going to plant in this row here. Now we have 2 seeds left over. We could just plant 2 more seeds over here, but I think for now I'll leave it. We have plenty of onions, we have enough turnips, and we have tons of grain coming in. So all we have to do now is wait. It's going to be a little while before we can harvest this, but we'll come back in a few episodes and these will be ready for us. In the meantime, we'll have to round out our diet by hunting and foraging, possibly finding more crops, but also by harvesting berries from the wild. Now, I believe I also promised all of you a house, so let's get to building. The first thing I want to do is I'm going to tear down this entire ruin with my bare hands. It's going to take a little while, but I think it'd be better to have a house made of something attractive like stone rather than dirt. Now, there are other materials we could use, such as mud brick, or we could build with just logs, but logs are a pain to get in enough quantity to actually make a difference in the early game, and the mud brick is attractive, but very work-intensive. We will, however, use some of that just to showcase how it works, but if you want to see more mud brick in action, we used a lot of it in the first guide series back in 1.16. So, I will see all of you on the other side of this demolition job. Okay, folks, I'm out here scrounging for breakfast. I found a little bit more flax. We can fill out that last flax slot. But I came upon here some carrots. Now, carrots I consider to be vastly inferior to other crops because they also use the K potassium nutrient. So it competes with your flax for nutrients and space in your farm. In a pinch, it's handy in the early game, but I ultimately end up not really growing much in the way of carrots. Okay, folks, so I have the ruin here fully... Oh, hello, you're trapped. Well, well, well. How unfortunate for you. Be back soon. Anyway, that ruin provided exactly 1 stack of sandstone bricks, which is nice. It's a good start, but I don't think we're going to be able to build our entire house with this. I would like to start with maybe a 7x7 or even 7x9 interior. That way we have enough room to expand a little bit. So I think what we're going to do here is I want to have the house butted up against the farm here. Let's use this as our centerpiece, and we'll go, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Is a 5x5 interior enough? I think it might be. If we do a 5x7, I think that should be enough room. So let's start with that. Yeah, that should be enough room to start out. I think we'll have plenty of space for doing what we need to. We can dig a little basement, although we should check to see how deep the soil is here. More than 3 blocks. That is perfect. That means that we'll be able to dig a cellar and keep our food fresher longer in the cellar. Let's go ahead and we're going to cut off the corners to save some material, and we'll see how far we can get with these blocks here. And I do want to take apart this part of the fence here so we can have a nice stone wall looking over the back here. And for that, I'm going to have to replace my axe because I broke it just a minute ago. There's that. So, 1, 2... We could even maybe have a little window here, because we shouldn't get things spawning inside our farm. Well, drifters might. Drifters just might. And then that gives us 22 left for a third level. Let's see if we can finish that up here. I don't know if we have enough. Yes, we are too short almost exactly. Well, what we can do instead is we can actually knock out a couple of these here, because we have some more rough-hewn fences from having torn them out of here. We can turn some of these into little makeshift windows. There we go. It's not perfect, but it does let in some light, and we can get at least a bit of a view of what's going on outside. Kind of like a jail cell, but it works, I guess. Hey, there we go. It connects. That should keep anything that spawns in here out of our house. Now, what about the entrances here and here? I think what we're going to do is we're going to build a door. Oh dear. I heard that. There is someone growling at us from very nearby. How did you get here? Hello? Well, we're going to get some spear practice in today. So here is how to use the spear with drifters, and they're not, well, I guess when they're running from you. 3 hits as long as you are not getting a penalty on your range damage with the flint spears should take out a drifter. And they can be harvested. They often have nothing, the surface ones, but you can get some pretty decent goodies out of them. It's just a very slow process. Okay, so if this was version 1.16 or 1.17, I would say we're not doing doors. However, I have been told that the crude door no longer has a chance of breaking when you use it. So, I think we're going to go with a couple of these doors. And there we go, we have door number 1. And we're going to remove this guy here. And we have door number 2. Let's just double check. Wow, okay, I dare say I think it's actually workable now. Very nice. Okay. Cool. Well, we now have not so much a house, we have a pen for ourselves. It's a start. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the floor here. I'm going to start moving things in from our other base, but we also need to consider what we're going to do about our roof. And I have a couple ideas. One is that I found some more blue clay, and I don't think I marked it. I think it's over here. It's just a little bit of blue clay, but it's enough. And I think we could make a nice blue clay shingle roof. Because there are certain things you can do with clay before you get access to metal, as well as after. So here you can see in the handbook, we have a number of different things we can build. We can do blue clay bricks. However, making brick blocks requires mortar. And mortar requires a whole bunch of slaked lime and conglomerate sand, which must be done in a barrel. And the lime requires ground up limestone or chalk. We can get limestone or chalk stones if we were to find, say, a biome around here that has some limestone or chalk, but we couldn't grind them because our buddy here has a barrel but no quern for us to do the grinding in. So bricks, unfortunately, are out. However, shingles, at least shingles made with clay, don't require any additional materials. We can just use shingles to make our roofing. And I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to have this sandstone walls, and then we'll have a blue clay roof made of shingles. And those, of course, are going to be made with the clay forming that we have been using for all of our clay formed objects, and then we will bake them in another pit kiln. So, I'm going to go ahead and start moving our things into here. I'll probably put on a partial dirt roof just to keep certain things out of the rain, and then we will go on our little blue clay hunt. And like that, we now have almost 3 full stacks of raw blue clay shingles. Now, I would like to fire them right now, but we have some noisy neighbors outside, so I'm not going to, because if I were to put any pit kilns in here, all of the wood and plant-based materials would catch fire. So instead, I thought we could amuse ourselves by digging down a little bit, because we need to make a cellar, as I mentioned before. I carry this in my offhand. And so let's go ahead and we're going to dig down here to the stone layer, and we're going to dig out a little bit of a cellar. Now, a cellar has a maximum size of 7 by 7 by 7, and the walls of your cellar must be comprised entirely, or mostly, of stone, ceramic, or dirt type materials. That can be any number of things, from things like bricks, to mud bricks, to actual dirt, or physical hard stone like we're standing on now, or cobblestone and bricks and so on. It doesn't matter. And your cellar doesn't have to be underground, but in this case it is kind of handy to put underground because it's easy access. And there we go, a 5 by 7 cellar. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab one of these guys with the CarryOn mod, and I'm going to drop my torch down here so we can still see a little bit, like so. And we're going to play around with the spoil timer. See how up here, underneath the open sky, or in this case open dirt, these have a spoil timer of 0.86. That means that the default spoil timers of our turnips and our rye grain are multiplied by 0.86, so they'll last a little bit longer. However, if we grab one of these and come down here, we put it right here. It is now 0.82. Now, it's not that much lower, and that's because it is very near the open sky. The farther we move it from the open sky, however, the higher the perish speed timer gets, or the lower it gets, really. So now it is at 0.59, so rather than lasting just 20 days and change, our turnip lasts 31 days in here, and the rye grains up to 1.4 years. Now, we can make this even longer by blocking this off entirely, and we'll get the maximum of 0.26, which basically multiplies all spoil timers by 4, so 72 days and 3.2 years, in this case here. But that does make it a bit inconvenient to get in and out of here. So I think what we're going to do, we're going to just grab, actually, we're going to take this back because this is medium fertility. We're going to use our low fertility soil. We're going to just make a little bit of a light barrier here. That way the light has to propagate its way around here and around the corner first, and that should do nothing apparently. I guess there's square propagation in this game. Oh well. I guess we'll take this down, and we will in fact use a block to stopper our exit here. But we're not going to be using dirt, because dirt is a pain to break and replace, mostly to break. Instead, we're going to use a block that is very fast to remove, and that, if I can find it, it's down in the basement, isn't it? Yep, here we go. That would be grass blocks, or hay bales. So we can take this, and we can plug this like that, and now we have the 0.26. And these are broken very quickly by hand. So I'm going to go ahead and move our ladder here to like that. Put this ladder here, remove this one, because we don't really need it. And now we have basically a perfect cellar. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and get us some more clay. I'm going to build us some pit kilns and get those firing, and then we will get this roof on. But before we do that, actually I forgot, we had made a storage vessel and I brought it over. Let's go ahead and look at the difference that this makes in the cellar here. Put the storage vessel right here. We're going to plug this hole again, just to make everything nice and even. You'll see here that these have different perish speeds for different types of foodstuffs. So here, the vegetable is 0.19, grain is 0.13, and other is 0.26. Whereas the reed chest is just 0.26 across the board. That means, if we take our turnip at 71.7 days and drop it into the vessel, we now have 95.5 days, and the grain at 3.1 years jumps to 6.3 years. So storage vessels, the clay storage vessels, are going to be your go-to for storing all manner of food in your cellars. One more consideration for cellars before we get to the clay is that if a rift spawns nearby, then you can end up with drifters spawning in your cellar. And there is an easy, cheesy way to keep drifters from spawning, or basically anything from spawning, and that is to drop stones on the ground like so. We're going to do that and protect our cellar because it is really annoying to have drifters spawning in your cellar, and you have to get down there and battle them before you can get to your food. All done. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, and everything outside in between, we have it. We have it right here. This dark soil is terra preta. This is the high quality soil I mentioned earlier, and this is what we're going to want to use to replace our farmland next time we rotate our crops. I am absolutely digging all of this up right now and bringing it with us. I knew I was going to be justified in choosing 777 as our seed, and boy, is it delivering. You bet. And just so you know, sometimes when you dig out terra preta, if it's on the edge of like a slope here, you want to check these outer bits here just to make sure there aren't any that bleed down into the layer below. 22 isn't huge, but it is a great start to our terra preta collection. Alright folks, we are back, and ain't she a beaut? That is not bad for a second episode, excuse you, a second episode starter house. Let's go deal with this menace here. Oh dear. That's not good. Is there more? Hey buddy, you coming? Let's tango. Let's tango. Come on. There we go. Any more? I think we're okay for now. Well, well, well. Well, 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 well. We have something to talk about. I'm going to harvest these other two guys. I don't expect much, but that was a great little find there. Before we get into what we just found here, here is a little view of our house, and I'm going to explain what I did as far as the design and as far as the features it has. So, in our little montage, I did go and get some berry bushes, and I've put them here. We have some red currants, and we have some black currants. And I stuck with those for two reasons. One is that the red and black currants are the better berries to have over cranberries, of course. And the red and black currants and the white currants also can be stacked 2 blocks high. So we get 8 bushes per 4 flat pieces of land here. I also tucked a little birch tree over here in each corner. Hopefully these will grow up to be like small little trees that don't provide much shade. Your crops won't really suffer much with a little bit of shade, but if they're like big bushy trees, then they can have problems. But the birches are typically pretty kind of scraggly, so I'm not too worried about that. As you can see, I used the slanted blue clay roofing, and I cornered our house with the maple logs for some nice contrast against the sandstone. Heading inside, you'll see that our house is fully finished. Oh right, about that. We do have a few blocks missing, and I was thinking that the best place to source those might be from our little old hut over there, because that is a ruin we haven't fully dismantled yet. There might actually be additional treasure to be found there. But before we go, we're going to talk about what to do with this temporal gear. Now, temporal gears are a resource you will get occasionally from surface drifters, more often from the more powerful drifters, which we'll meet, I'm sure, very soon. You can also buy these from some traders. I believe the treasure hunter traders have them on occasion, and you can find them very rarely in some ruins loot. These have a few uses. One is they can be used to repair teleporters called translocators that will take you to various parts of the world. They are randomly generated, typically underground, actually almost always underground, and they likewise take you into a very random direction. But they're very good because they'll take you a long distance away where you might find different trees, different crops, different everything really. There are a few items that require temporal gears in their construction. We can't make them yet, so we're not going to worry about them. Our main use for them right now is to set our spawn point. And we're going to do that by crouching and holding right click until it disappears. Boom, and now, whenever we die, we will respawn exactly on this block. Even the world settings of a random respawn radius won't stop that. There is one more use that we're not going to really hopefully have to use, which is that if your temporal stability is really dangerously low, you can hold a temporal gear in your offhand. Ooh. You can hold a temporal gear in your offhand and use a knife in your main hand, and it's unclear what you do exactly, but I think you kind of stick the temporal gear inside your body, and it hurts you, but it also heals your temporal stability. Now, for those holes in the walls, I'm thinking of grabbing the sandstone cobblestone, and yes, it'll take us a while to dig this up because we have to do it by hand. I don't have a pickaxe or anything yet, but mixing in different kinds of stone with the same color, with different textures, can really help jazz out a build. It can make it look really good. So we're going to get a whole bunch of this, probably all of it, honestly, and we're going to dig down to the bottom of this ruin here and see if there are any more treasures to be found. And then we'll pack this up and take it home, and we'll finish building our little house here. Alright, so here we are. We are back with our extra cobblestone. Now, what I like to do with these builds when you have textures and not so much depth to play with, what I like to do is I like to mix in these blocks a little bit, and I used to mix them in randomly. However, I've kind of started clustering them together so that they look like maybe a section of wall got destroyed and had to be rebuilt using the materials on hand. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to build like a little kind of area here against this pillar where maybe drifters broke down some of the wall and we had to repair it, or maybe just some weather did it, or maybe we just neglected it and we needed to repair it at some point. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to replace some of these brick blocks with the sandstone cobblestone. There we go. We have a sort of broken piece of wall there. Maybe we'll do another one here, like maybe around this window. There we go. Number one, I guess. And then maybe somewhere over here, like right up here. Maybe we had like some water damage that sort of cracked some of the bricks or something when it froze in winter. And so we have like a little, patch running down kind of off-center right down here. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, mine, and 5. And that just gives it a bit of character, I think. I think it looks a lot better. That also has the effect of freeing up our other blocks here to fill in the rest of the walls that we have. So let's maybe fill in that there. We'll come in here and we'll put these here where they belong, like so. And then maybe this cracked area extends up to here, like that. Just trying to conserve enough blocks of the brick type that we can actually keep building with them. So let's go ahead and try to fit those across there. We have 11 blocks. I think we can fit these in. There we go. Perfect. Look at that. And like that, we have a fairly well-detailed early game house going on. I'm pretty happy with this, for being the second episode and being only a few hours into the game so far. I'm going to make a couple more of these fences to put in this window here, but that's going to be the only thing left to do. So yes, I am very happy with how our house came out. I hope you all enjoyed the build, and let me know what you think of it in the comments. Anyway, everyone, that is about going to do it for this episode of the Vintage Story Guide Season 2. I hope you enjoyed learning how to set up your farms in the early game, and how to build a little house using the resources left by our ancestors. Or their ancestors. Or their ancestors. I know I am personally looking forward to seeing how these birch trees grow up and seeing how they add to the definition of our little place here. So that won't be for about probably most of a month. So we should see it in, I'm going to say, 2 to 3 episodes from now. In the next episode, look forward to learning how to do some early game exploring for broadening your horizons and gaining knowledge of the landscape, as well as for how to find certain resources that you're going to need in the early game, and some of which will be used very, very late into the game, if not forever. And this new bending backwards to stare at the camera thing is kind of unsettling. Not gonna lie. Limbo! Look at that. Anyway, everyone, as always, my name has been CarryOn. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.